You are now listening to the ANR Design Unholstered podcast with Alex Costa. Hi guys and gals, welcome to the ANR Unholstered podcast. I'm your host, Alex Costa. This is episode 29, and our guest today is Marshall. Marshall owns STRIFE 17. It's a training company out of, where did you move to? Fucking
right
Kentucky.
Now, Louisville.
You're in Louisville. You were in Arizona for a long time. Yeah. But you specialize in small unit tactics, dog work, dog with small unit tactics, and a little backstory on Marshall. Marshall was my very first customer that brought a light bearing holster to us to produce, and we didn't have the gun at the time. I think, did you mail me your gun or did I have to borrow one? I can't remember.
I think you borrowed one from somebody.
I think I borrowed one from somebody, and then I grabbed I had a TLR1. It was a TLR1 FNX 45 tactical, because you had your scar.
It was just it was my fit, bro. Like
you were on an FN kick at the time, but it's funny because I've heard from some of your students that you bash 45 ACP now, so it's okay. It's okay. My first gun was a 40 cal. We can go back. We can all look back and say, hey man, we were all at a point of weakness once, and we had to grow and learn.
Yeah, we have to grow somehow, and sometimes going through those motions is how we do it.
Anyway, with that being said, please take it away. Tell us about your business. Tell us about, everything. Go ahead. Do it.
Well, so as for my background, I was with 10th Mountain Division from 2004 to 2010. I don't have like a bunch of deployments, but I do have like a couple of long deployments, and I participated in some landmark battles, like being in the Korengal Valley for a year and a half is a big one. And then there are other events like Barge Matal in Nuristan that happened in 2009 that I was fortunate enough to take part in. So I'm totally a regular guy. I'm not even airborne, but I do have a pretty saturated light infantry experience, being in 10th Mountain Division, one of the most deployed divisions in the world. But so I started shooting high power rifle after the military. I started doing that for a few years, and then I had people start coming to me and asking me how they could better run a gun. And the very first time I did it, I felt like, holy crap, I think I can do this for the rest of my life. And it's teaching has been something that I've never dreaded going to work for. Like every other job that I've had, like it's something I can do all day until I drop from fatigue. But I enjoy it, and that's pretty much my background on it. I focus on individual marksmanship, certainly, and it's a starting point. But what I try to ultimate to through progression and training is teamwork. How effectively can you guys communicate? How voluntary are you guys with your team's tasking with every single thing that's out there? And it goes outside of like CQB and the VCQB and the flat range antics. Like there are concepts within this that need to be understood and followed, like security. What is defilade? What is enfilade? And are you always striving to have 100% security within your team as it moves through whatever environment it is? Like you can have a CQB situation, but you might also have a 5-kilometer walk through a non-permissive environment in order to get to that CQB situation. And there are tenets to be followed within all of those environments. So, right. I mean, I don't know, like we have this market or this industry, and like you and I both work in the same industry, and it's largely consumer dictated, or like the habits of consumerism largely dictate where this industry goes. And like I would like to say that we're starting to see people turn around more and see beyond all the flat range stuff and start to expand into more comprehensive facets of this aptitude.
Right. Right. I mean, a lot of people, like you just said, the industry, right? So everyone, I think vehicle classes were really hot from like 2010 to 2017.
They look cool.
They look cool. I mean, it's good. It's important to understand bullet theory through glass and vehicles. But the takeaway from vehicles is get the fuck out, because they're fucking death traps. And no matter how good you are shooting from a vehicle, you shouldn't try to stay in that view. And whoever's shooting at you, if you're in the vehicle, has the advantage tenfold always. So like that was the hotness. I remember VCQB was like the hotness when I got into firearms training and taking classes, and I took a couple of VCQB classes, and then it just became kind of redundant. Like, okay, you know, pinning the door, working from the A pillar, like it's all just, it's important. Everyone should take a VCQB class. Everyone should take a CQB class. Everyone should take a low light, no light, a night vision class if you have and can afford nods and lasers. All those facets are super important, but they're not the big picture. They're super niche, minutia. And then it's like, okay, you are one of 5 friends that you like to shoot with, but you're the only one that can afford night vision and afford these classes. You might be the knowledge transfer point to your friends.
Right.
But if they don't experience them for themselves, they're not going to be able to draw their own conclusions. You're just doing word salad from something that you were taught. And then are you and your friends actually practicing this on a regular basis is the other thing. And it's just, it's so niche. Like, if the world ended tomorrow, you're not going to go door to door scavenging in people's homes where you know people are still living. Like, that's how you die. And you know, it's not like you're gonna go into the city and try looting, because you're gonna get into gunfights left and right, and you're gonna die in your vehicle.
Yeah, I've had guys, you know, because I've been in a street to street, house to house situation before, and when people ask like what we went into Barnes Matol with, and I reply, well, I had it at the ready, spread amongst my kit. I had, you know, my 7 initial magazines. I have a spare bandolier, and then I have a third bandolier for a total of 21 loaded magazines going into this place. And people are like, oh, this is excessive. And I'm like, man, maybe your delusions are excessive, because this is about as bad as it gets. And I don't know, you know, like all the minimalist setups and stuff like that. It almost seems arbitrary to the general rule of thumb is bring more dope and beer. Bring more ammo.
I mean, suppression is like 90% of shooting. People take classes and they fucking work on marksmanship, and obviously you need to work on marksmanship. It's super, being great at fundamentals is your baseline, but like at the end of the day, like your fire team is suppressing, so you have a flanking force to take out threat. I mean, it's kind of common sense. You suppress them. You have more ammo going down range at the bad guys, so that
it's an argument, and whoever is the loudest wins.
Exactly.
Like it's really
a
simple,
game.
man.
War's a game, the way it's been described to me. So it's like,
man, you know, just as an example to support this, you know, I had a group of 4 dudes in Virginia, and there wasn't much snow on the ground. I think about 6 inches, but a lateral bound while applying suppressing fire every step of the way costs these dudes collectively 750 rounds just to get a football field to the right.
And bounding is, explain bounding for people. It's like 5 to 10 yards at a time, because you don't want to go too far forward and get into the sector of fire of one of your teammates. So
a bound is the best way I can describe this, and I'm going to try not to stick within the confines of limiting them to certain distances, because however far you have to bound is how far you have to bound.
Right.
But the point is to have somebody in a position to where they already have sight alignment on a probable threat area, or in the instance of you are in contact, they are applying suppressing fire to that area, so somebody else can maneuver and ideally leapfrog that distance that their support is set up. So you also have to take into consideration the coverage of ground in this.
Yeah.
And so it's always going to be more advantageous for you to leapfrog your support's position in parallel.
Not just get to the line, like
Right,
go past
exactly.
the line, and
Yeah,
then how much ammo do you actually have? What's the cadence of fire to suppress
Right.
the opposing force? Do they have more guns than you, which means you have to shoot more?
Right. Like there's all these things that you have to take into consideration into assessment and make a decision on in almost an instant by comparison to the overall bigger picture. I guess within me, I've noticed that when suppressing fire is being applied, if I start to hear the objective go more than about 3 seconds without taking some sort of incoming fire from us, then I start to feel really naked and like I'm losing momentum in this, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
as long as there is metal in the air to some degree, and you guys should already have worked out rate of fire commands that dictate what rate of fire needs to be applied. But that doesn't mean that you can't voluntarily pick up the slack just because you hear that there's not enough metal in the air.
Right. For people listening, I'm just an engineer, right? I'm just a nerd. A lot of people are like, oh, what was your MOS? It's like nothing. I'm just a dork. But guess what's free? Or guess what's free is knowledge, and you can go buy the Ranger handbook. You can go buy all kinds of military handbooks and read them. And that all this shit that we're talking about is all free information. Like you can take a class with Marshall, which is obviously the best idea or the best choice to make, because you've got someone helping you guide your group. And I mean, if you're going to take a class with Marshall, if you have a bunch of dudes that you trust, those are your go-to dudes, take a class together. And then you're going to get to like test and apply what kind of teamwork you guys and communication that you guys actually commit with each other. It'll build a stronger bond with your group if that's what you're into. And that's what everyone should be into, honestly, is community. But this knowledge is free. Like you can read these books and then go apply it with your friends in the woods, and it's okay to do that.
Like the harder thing to quantify is the amount of cohesion that you have within your team. Now, imagine 4 dudes in the dark that don't really have to go over too much of a plan, because they already know what each person is supposed to do, and they already know what direction needs to be headed and what priorities of work need to be accomplished first within the patrolling sense. That is something you can't go buy that on a website. That is something that you have to work for, and it takes repetition with familiar people.
Right. And would you say patrolling, I feel like from what I've digested from friends in tier 1 units all the way through, grunt Marines, is patrolling has been hands down the number one most engagements and number one most important task to get good at is patrolling and setting up security.
I mean, in those types of environments and conflict zones, if you are not proactively patrolling, the walls are going to start closing in on you for your area of operations. The enemy gets bolder, they start making more prods, and pretty soon now you have instances where the enemy is in the wire.
Right.
And you're now conducting perimeter defense, which is awful. And you can take my word for that. So.
Yeah, did you have a fob hit?
In Barge Matal, they attempted to overrun our Overwatch position for an entire platoon that was down fighting street to street. My platoon was on the side of a mountain, and personnel started coming from up higher from the mountain. We ended up blowing claymores and lobbing a tremendous amount of 40 millimeter grenades from the building we were in, and going outside and fragging couple different cornfields in order to clear them, but they ended up, we repelled the assault. This is probably one of the craziest scenarios I could ever find myself in, that I could ever conceive
Yeah, it sounds daunting. That sounds like absolutely daunting. Just be like, oh, we're fucked. Like
the amount of autopilot that you're on in that situation is obscene. It can't be quantified.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think with what happened in 2020 with COVID, I think a lot more people are getting firearms, buying firearms, going to seek training and whatnot. But I think one of the things that is grossly lost because of social media and like whole aspect of like all these go fast flatlanders is like, what sense of community do you have? Like I'll be 100% honest. Today, I have a group. I have a group of dudes, and today we practiced patrolling. We went out, we set a route, and we did it as a group, and we communicated, and we walked in formation, and we moved that way. And we learned some stuff about the area that we were in. We had a rough idea of where we were going. We kind of got dead ended, and we had to come back just because of waterways. But we have a plan for next time, how we want to spend more time out there as a group and do it better. Yeah. So it's like, okay, but that, you think, like, I think I'm good at shooting, right? And if you put me in a class, I'm a good shooter. I perform well. I'm in the top of my class, like not top, but I'm in the top bit of my class at the end of classes and stuff like that. But not everyone is there, and like one of the things that I've found is like, if I shoot with people that are worse than me, then I don't get better. So I take classes because it's the only way to like really
push you in the right room.
But I love teaching. I love like spending time and teaching dudes like shooting fundamentals because I can look at someone and say, do this. Hey, your footwork's wrong, or this, that, or another, and help guys out. But you can't expect everyone to be, if you do consider yourself a super good shooter, you can't expect everyone else to be either. And then just because they're a good shooter, are they a good teammate?
And that's something that I would like to hit on, is what I'm looking for most frequently in shooters is some degree of autonomy. And like part of my range briefing is this is a professional working environment. I expect you to have a gun made ready to work at all times unless you're instructed to clear the weapon. So you should have a loaded gun out here all day. And if you don't, then I ding you for it. If you aren't automatically getting a status check at being in a leadership position on that limit of advance on the objective, if you're not automatically going down the line and voluntarily assigning sectors of fire to each team member, I'm going to ding you for that. And this is what it means to be a voluntary team member. It's like, what can I do to help? What can I do to get this done? We need water. What do we need in order to make a reconnaissance happen?
Right.
Right. And it's being autonomous and voluntary.
Yeah. And I mean, I like hot ranges. I think it puts there's a lot of, God, why can't I think of the word right now? Anyway, it when you're like words, I have baby brain. I'm on daddy duty all evening. Like when you, anyway, it keeps people, humble because everything's hot, right? It's like, okay, if your mag's in your gun and a drill's about to start, are you topped off? Is that mag full? Have you discarded your mag that you ran for your last drill? I mean, right. I've been in classes with cops that SWAT team hitter, like claim to be hitter fucking cops.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, load, make ready. Guys are topped off for this drill. This is the requirement for this drill. And they're like, yep, no, it's cool, bro. Fucking, I mean, we're like 3 yards away from the target with a rifle and they miss at center of mass after they've had to tap rack because they had an empty mag and didn't check their equipment. And you're just like, people, it's complacency,
Well, if I ask shooter ready, this is no shit, your amnesty period. Like verify that you're ready. And if you don't verify shit, then I'm gonna take it you're just that confident, and we're gonna roll with it. But
crush egos on the range, and that happens, dude. I mean, I've seen dudes on the range, they just don't care. They might be good shooters, but they're not checking their equipment. They're not checking their gear. you know, they lost a mag out of something, their pistol's
Yeah.
missing a mag because they just ran it, you know, whatever it might be. And it's just like, are you sure you're ready? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, oh, I can see that you're ready.
Yeah, you're totally. I know you're not ready, but I'll let you think that you are. And so you'll get to experience the steam of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We were, there was another cop in this class who was an SF medic, and
Yeah.
you know, another guy, same deal. Oh, I'm good. Fucking right after his teammate at his police department just failed. You think it was like, okay, fuck, man. All right, let me just check my shit. Didn't. He comes up and he goes, all right, bang, bang, click, empty mag. We're just like, no.
You're like, dude, you had a magazine with 2 rounds in it, but not even 2 rounds. You had 1 in the chamber and 1 in the mag.
You've had 18 minutes to set this drill up. Like, how do you fuck this up? But you know, people, you get like dudes that do it for a job and they get complacent, and then you have dudes that really take this super seriously, and everything's constantly like autistically level checked. You know,
I've had those moments where like I get complacent. I'm like month 10 in on a deployment, and I'm outside of a house. We're getting ready to go in it to get a guy out of it, and I flick my weapon light on my rifle, and it's dead. I know, like, and so I'm like, I guess we're doing the old headlamp method, and but that was, yeah, and like at that point, I'm a squad leader. I'm not supposed to have lapses in vigilance to that degree, man. Super bad look.
All right, though, trial by fire. Like, if you're gonna learn, you're gonna learn the hard way, and people don't realize that. So do you suggest like people that take your classes, if you do have a group of dudes, try to take a class with a group of dudes? No, I mean, it's cool to also work with dudes you don't know, and you build that camaraderie on the range. But I feel like,
I mean, if you're gonna run around 400 meters at a time, like trying to develop some level of cohesion, it might as well be organically with the people that are in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I mean, no doubt, like it certainly can challenge you being with 3 random guys, but you know what I'm saying? It's a more fruitful investment if you bring people that will be around.
Yeah, I mean, cool. We just had lunch together and we talked about communication, guys. But yeah, so I did talk to a couple friends of mine who were super jazzed up on taking your class, and they frequent your Discord channel, and and I was like, yeah, it's like, well, I was talking to Goonicidal Tendencies, and he was like, yeah, dude, like, I really want to take class with Marshall. And I was like, cool, you got homies that'll go with you? He's like, no.
he was out in Texas.
Did he bring friends? Yeah. Good.
No, he met, okay, so that's kind of the cool thing, is he met 3 other dudes off of my Discord.
Perfect.
Right, so like he now has a fire team where he lives, and he keeps up with them every day. He talks to them.
That's great.
So it's awesome.
He's a cool dude. He's super nice. I met him in Matagorda, Texas when I was down there. He's a fucking awesome dude.
He's a super good worker too. He's got initiative behind the gun.
Oh yeah. And he's also one of those people that exercises his rights. Like, he's always like, fuck it, I'm just gonna rock an AK downtown. Or just like, some people would be like, all right, that's fucking excessive. But at the end of the day, it's like, you can legally do it if you make it normal in your life. And people will ask you questions in the street, you can educate them. It's like, I'm a good guy, it's fine. He likes AKs though. AK is bad guy gun. What are your thoughts on AKs versus AR platform guns on Americans? And this is a loaded question. I love my AKs. I love my AKs, but shit hits a fan, I ain't grabbing a fucking AK.
Right. I mean, terminal ballistics speaks for itself.
Yeah, there's that, but I meant like you're profiling yourself as a bad guy with an AK. Like, I think Texas AKs, cartels, you know, you fucking
anywhere close to the border. That's. I mean, for the most part, I think any uniform that sees somebody with a rifle has some default level of concern. like here's a man in public, because again, you just tapped on it. This is the way culture is. People get freaked out when they see a rifle. But at any rate, I mean, I'm an AR guy myself. I like the full size, heavy barreled 5.56s.
Yes, you do. SPRs.
Yeah,
Capable of everything.
The do it all gun, man. The do it all gun. So that's what I run, and I'm probably a bit of an oddball. I'm in no way, shape, or form a gun collector. I only have my primary and secondary weapon, and that's it. I don't have anything else.
Well, because your primary and secondary are all serviceable guns, and you probably have parts, and that's all that matters. I'm a man of twos. I always have a backup to my primary on both. Yeah. I've had guns go down in classes, but yeah, I mean, that's another thing. There's a lot of people that are like, do I spend money on ammo or training, or do I buy another gun? It's like, do you need another gun?
It's like, have you invested 100,000 repetitions of dry fire on the gun that you already do own? And if the answer to that is no, then maybe you're not. Just spend more time in that cockpit, in the seat of that aircraft. You know what I'm saying? Get your 10,000 hours.
Yeah, I mean, was it 10,000 hours makes you a master? Like, master what you're good at, or
yeah.
And like other people, like, oh, like, what do you carry for a carry gun? The same gun that's on my hip in class is the same gun that I carry. It's like,
every day.
Like, I do run a staccato, but I put a C2 grip on it, so it's a Glock 19 grip. No, I mean, I do run a staccato, but I have up 15,000 rounds on it, and I fucking after shooting that gun, dude,
you're probably spoiled as shit, man.
I hate to say it, it's like I run an 8-pound spring with 115 Barnes plus P's, and it's
a typewriter.
It's a rainbow. Like, there's 7 casings
in air simultaneously
above the center line of my barrel, and I can do bill drills at 20 yards, and it's fucking so stupid, dude. It's so dumb, and it runs like I haven't had stoppages since like the first 500, and it just runs. I took the magwell off. Like, I hate magwells. Magwells are stupid. I took everything off. I have a C2 grip on it. I carry it. I have an enclosed emitter. I know people, it's funny, dude. People talk so much shit about Holosun and like call it Chinesium. Bro, every single fucking tier 1 unit I have ever worked with, which is pretty much a lot of them, they all have Holosuns. Not that they all use them, but the fucking conversation that everyone has is they're checking all the boxes that everyone wants.
Well, the RMR is it's a debris trap. It's what it seems like to me, and I'm just like, man, the closed emitter is nice.
And Acros are great. Acro P2s are great. The Acro P1 was trash because the battery life was like a couple days. But the Acro is so big and tall. And then because it's so long bodied, where it mounts on the slide is usually to the rear of the slide. So now you're adding weight at the very end of your cantilever lever of a gun, where your moment, in engineering speak, your moment is here in your palm. And as that gun tips, you're adding more mass to the end of your fucking gun. You're going to have more felt recoil with an Acro. And then people, a lot of times you see these dudes with tricked out guns with Acros. They usually have a compensator because now they have a counterweight to balance that seesaw effect that's happening in your webbing. Okay. And I did get like a couple Holosun EPSs, and they sit lower than the 509, and they sit in the Delta Point Pro full pattern, and they're fucking really low to bore. And I shoot my staccato better now, because there's less mass hanging off the end of my gun, and it's lower and tighter, and it's an enclosed emitter. So, if Trojacon made an enclosed emitter 4 years ago, they would literally be the most #1 used optic on planet Earth. If they didn't release the RMR CC on a proprietary footprint and just went with the Shield Arms footprint, they would have not had to sell those at cost. So, there's ego in the industry within manufacturers as well. And I love when people are like, well, don't buy this, buy a Surefire. It's like Surefire gets certain components from overseas. Almost everyone does. Modlite, fucking, I don't know about cloud, but like Modlite does, Unity with wires and switch logic. Like you just don't get that in the United States and be able to sell it at a price point that's digestible for people.
Right.
Most of your shit's made in China. Most of your components and electrical components and emitters and diodes and shit like that are fucking made in China. Obviously try to buy as American as much as possible, but sometimes it's not avoidable.
I was just saying, people get caught up in the most arbitrary facets of this stuff, man. It's kind of wild. No, it's Chinese. All right, I guess.
Your Ford that you drive is Mexican and you have an iPhone. Get over it. Like
I've seen guys stipulate about carrying too many magazines on the chest, yet they're talking about looking into buying a throat protector for their armor. And right, dude. I think some guys just like arbitrary.
Or like, dude, side panel armor. So many dudes like, what side panel armor do you run? None. They're like, why?
None.
I was like, have you ever used side panel armor? As encumbering as fuck.
Yeah, I used it both of my deployments. So all of my time in combat zones use side armor, and it is terrible.
Well, you were also at the time where it's like almost like war is cyclical, right? So it's like, it's like, okay, super lightweight, pre 9/11.
Well,
and then you deploy, and it's like mountains. Okay, so less weight. All right, and then IEDs start happening. They have like Humvees. Then Iraq kicks off, and it's door kicking, and dudes are getting fucking swatted by disciplined fucking insurgents, and they're getting caught up under the armpits and stuff. So it's like up armor them, and then you're starting to get debilitating spinal injuries from carrying too much weight. So you drop weight again, and armor gets smaller. The fucking vital plates get smaller. And it's like, you just see this like cyclical fucking, it depends on the engagement or it depends on the theater. And then you see this cyclical armor shit and you're just like.
Well, I mean, our first deployment, we were running the IBAs and relatively little fluff on those, because they have the throat protector, groin protector, all that stuff. And then, my second deployment, they had all these advancements in armor. And so we got issued an IOTB with every single fucking attachment you can fucking think of. And they want, the first couple patrols happen in country. And then the unit changes its SOP. Okay, well, only turret gunners, wear all the up armor and stuff like that. And then the guys that are dismounts, they can roll with it without the throat protector, and then just have a X whatever, et cetera, et cetera. So
it's like rolling with the punches, but it's all cyclical. I'm sure what's going on in Ukraine right now, everyone's up-armored because the fucking armor-piercing ammo is like the standard there.
Yeah.
And it punches holes, which is good.
Right.
It doesn't fragment like what we're running. US.
So it's actually a cleaner wound in that sense. Ukraine is kind of wild, man. It's mixing old elements of warfare with unprecedented elements of warfare, like drone warfare today. It's one of the wildest things I've ever seen. The ease at which, like a forward observer can send up a drone and use that to spot his indirect fire is pretty incredible, man.
Yeah.
This stuff was not that widespread in the GWAT era. It's pretty crazy to watch it.
Swarm drones are terrifying. Have you seen Chinese swarm drones? Like, assassin swarm drones?
No, thank you.
I mean, drones.
I'm good.
I mean, like, trench warfare is already a psyop. It's already psychologically fucking terrifying. Now you can hear a drone, but the drones are this big, not, the size of a fucking Toyota.
A Reaper, right. Yeah.
And it's like, where's the drone? And the evolution of handheld munition, like destructive devices and their implementation from drones is fucking terrifying.
Munitions and all of these, it's definitely terrifying.
Even down to the psychological, like, where do you drop a grenade? Like, you know, they hear the drone, they know it's coming, they know what it's going to drop. And then I saw like a video of a Russian dive into his cover, and the cover like had a hole in the roof of his cover, and the drone purposely dropped it in the hole, and they ran down the trench and dive into their little bunker setup, their makeshift bunker, and they all die because the grenade went there. Like,
right.
The drone pilot saw them running to their cover, was already positioned to drop the grenade at their cover, and it's like at that point, and then you see some guys don't even move when the drone's above them because they're just like, oh, fucking roll the dice. Like, what's the point? It's like, I can't imagine the level of PTSD that these guys are going to come out of this war. Like, the ones that survive trench warfare and the drone attacks and loitering munitions, it's like, it's so invisible. It's terrifying.
Man, and you know, like I watched interviews from dudes from the original Chechen War, and these dudes were like describing, you know, what it was like for them after, you know, being hit by like a bombing run from a Frogfoot or like some other aircraft, and he's like, man, like even in my home country, like in, you know, war decades away at this point, like I still have a serious problem when I hear an aircraft in the air.
Yeah.
And like I just, and so I mean, yeah.
Or like Bosnia Herzegovina, like the Bosnian War was, I used to, before I did what I do, well, no, I was doing this, but before I went self-employed, I worked for an automotive company, and there's a large Bosnian Serbian population in Laconia, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And one of the manufacturing lines that I serviced, I was a warranty engineer. It was like half Serbs, half Bos.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, but they were like related. Like a Bosnian was an in-law to a Serbian before the war, and everything was great. And then I was talking to this one Serb that was like mentoring me on the production line. Yeah. And he's like, go talk to this guy at the end of the line, ask him to lift his shirt up. And I went down. I was like, hey, told me to fucking lift your shirt up. And he lifts his shirt up, and it's like twisted flesh,
just scar tissue.
And he's like, and he goes, I threw that grenade at my in-law in another trench because they were fighting each other, because they were just it fucking mind-boggling. And then also the psyop, he was telling me about, like, oh, this one time they gave us ammo and they said shoot it over the trenches and it'll redirect and kill them. And I was like, what? There's no ammo that exists
in the world that'll do
that. He goes, no, man, it works. They told us shoot it over the trenches, and when you storm the trench, they'll all be dead. And we did. We stormed the trench, and they were all dead. And I'm just like, no, that's not real. He's like, well, they're all dead. It's probably the dead that was already there.
Right.
They had retreated. You know, but the psychological and the drugs that they were using, they told me about all the drugs they were using while they were, you know, deployed. I was just like, holy fuck, dude, like crazy shit. But that was like family members fighting family members. And I'm sure it's very similar in what's going on in Ukraine too.
Yeah, it's because it's territorial. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the American military where they bring, you know, all walks of life and they send them to a place that they have personally nothing to do with. This is people's homeland.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. All right, we're deviating into war, but war is cyclical and it's depressing and
it's terrible.
Yeah, watching these dudes just wither away or fucking suck start their AKs because they got hit by a bad frag off of a fucking drone. You're just like, man, what a fucking waste of life.
Yeah,
for fields and mud. But anyway, so we talked about like VCQB again. Everyone take the classes once, digest what you will. At the end of the day, if you can afford it, take as many classes as fucking possible. But you know, I've been talking to a lot of like instructor friends, and I'm like, hey, you guys do a lot of like vehicle, a lot of CQB. Do you do SUT? And they're like, kinda. Not really. It's not, like you said, it's not on brand yet.
Right.
I think you had COVID anti-government stuff. People are like, don't trust their government. So people are trying to take, they're all gluing in on what's hot.
Yeah.
But I think SUT is gonna be like, if the SUT is not the base curriculum in the next 5 years, I'd be really surprised. Like for all schoolhouses across.
Well, the bottom line is, do you have the disciplines or the aptitudes required to exist in a non-permissive environment? That's it. Can you exist and not die in this place?
So do y'all listening have friends that are like-minded individuals that want to put the fucking work in? Because
like the thing is, man, this work will tell you about people. It'll show you where their ethics are. It'll show you where their priorities are at. And so, you know what, man? Charlie Beckwith said it. He said, I'd rather have 10 studs down the river than 100 shitheads. And it's 10, you know what I'm saying? 10 dimes over 100 pennies.
Yep.
And teams are built. They aren't bought.
Also, like, coming down to civilians should know how this shit works. And like
the citizen soldier.
One of members of our group is a Marine. And he obviously like front Marine, but still spent years of workup and training and just spending all that time in the field grueling, patrolling, and indoctrinating that mentality into his head. Like, I still think, I don't care how cool the coolest tier 1 unit is to these kids that put future fucking Navy SEAL in their bio on Instagram. I love it. I love all my fucking tier 1 buddies. I think what they do is absolutely phenomenal. The capabilities, all the boxes they check and all the capabilities they check is so fucking cool. But I still think like between 10th Mountain, like 11 Bravo, and like your basic fucking Marine, like that is the quintessential.
These guys do it soldier. Day in, day out,
everywhere.
And so, right. Like, and it's like, okay, you know, and like, I'm not shit talking with any of this by any means, but you know, like a lot of these SOCOM dudes, they have like 3 and 6 month deployments versus like I've got a 16-month deployment. I've got, you know what I'm saying? It's the day in, day out, grueling patrolling, as you said.
And the monotony, the head games, you haven't been in contact for X amount of time. It's always like a waiting game. You're stuck in a fob. You're not, you know. Yeah. You're just like, when's the next hit? You know, whereas like tier 1 units get to call their shot callers. They get to call when they're going to do the work for the most part. Obviously,
they get to dictate the standard.
Obviously, shit happens and things get turned upside down, but they are generally in control of the situation, or at least on an intel side, they have what they think is the control of the situation because they're not going to put multi-million-dollar investments in humans in a situation where it's a loss of life.
Right.
So they generally get to control the situation, whereas, you know, 10th Mountain is just chill here.
Yeah. Occupy this valley. That's it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And that's gonna be so, I can't imagine just fucking ruling it out for 60 months somewhere, fucking shitting in a hole and eating trash and
I've had fleas twice in my life, both times on a deployment. Like, there's nothing you can do. Like, the easy fix is do your laundry and take a shower.
Yeah.
These are the 2 things I cannot do out here.
Yeah. Or a buddy of mine, he was 11 Bravo. They had drums of Permethrin, like the insecticide, which is a nerve agent. And what people don't understand is like when you apply that. So I use it all the time to do my clothing for hunting or whatever. Right. The ticks in New Hampshire are insane.
They're bad.
Like I wear gloves. I wear like basically a Gore-Tex rain suit and a respirator when I apply this shit to my fucking clothes.
Yeah.
And I do it where there's no wind, so the vapor's not coming back at me. And then as soon as I'm done, I take a shower, wash everything with soap and water. And I wear eyeglasses too, because I've had it before. It starts burning my eyes. I'm like, I'm gonna get fucking eye cancer. And my buddy's like, oh, dude, this one time they just told us like this insecticide showed up in drums. We cracked the fucking steel drums. It's permethrin. And they told us just to dump our uniforms in it. And I was like, did you use a stick at least? He's like, no, we just dunked our hands into it and swirled it around. And I'm like, what?
No.
What the fuck? Like, if the government ever shows up with a 55-gallon drum of something, do not
put your fucking hands in it. Like, Jesus
And he's
Christ.
like, no, we would just like dunk it, stir it around, and then lay it out on the tarmac. And I was like, what? Like, this shit's supposed to be applied with a spray bottle. It's not supposed to be like, you can, so like if you buy like LL Bean's hiking stuff, it's like soaked and then they do a once wash and it's good for like 10 washes because it like has soaked into the fibers. The applications that you can get when you buy this stuff is like 5 washes. But he's like, nah, dude, we're just swirling the shit around with our hands. I was like, oh my God, dude, do you have prostate cancer yet? Like,
lithium battery fires, burning, like exposure to all this shit.
Burning shit pits.
Oh, yeah, dude. And, you don't know any better at the time either because you're just a young guy sitting there watching them lithium batteries blow up. That's it. And you start developing brain tumors and all sorts of other weird deals due to exposure. Yeah.
I know a local guy that's just suffering from cancer, from burn pits, and just debilitating multi-levels of cancer, withering away, depressed. Like,
oh, bro, when you go places like Bagram Air Base, there were 3-story tall incinerators that with a front end loader, bro, and there were several of them, and you just have that front end loader. It would work day and night, loading incinerators. It is pretty disgusting. So,
and those guys probably aren't laced up in PPE. There's just it's a job.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Oh boy. Anyway, so yeah, long story short, build community, make friends that you trust, that you can
build cohesion.
Like, make sure they're friends that like you're away, and if your wife needs help, they're there and they're not gonna fuck around.
Alex, what you're asking of somebody is for them to put themselves in front of a gun for you. You better pick your friends well.
Yeah.
Because it's asking a fucking lot.
Yeah. I think for not just my friends, but anyone listening, like, if you really think you're a fucking good shooter, you're a prepared person, you fucking raised beds in your backyard, you garden, you have chickens, you shoot, you hunt, you do all this stuff, and you feel you're a really prepared person, like, you're just one person, you're fucked. Like,
what, dude, one guy with a rifle is exactly that. It's one guy with a rifle. 4 dudes with rifles, something completely different.
Right.
And it is, because it is not just 4 dudes with rifles. It is a fucking team.
Yeah. I think more people, I'm really happy that people are going out of their comfort zone and taking classes and taking cool classes. And I know there's a certain level of coolness. There's so much range theatrics too. I think I said this with John Dufresne, but I was talking to, there was like this training company out in Idaho, and I was in like this high tier, we were in that high tier gun group together, Anyway, so there was like a kid that posted it, and it was like a bunch of just husky ass dudes that have never taken a CQB class, but the instructor was having them actually breach doors with a fucking mini ram. And I'm like, wait a minute. So he breaches the door with the mini ram, it opens, and then the number 1 guy doesn't move. He pies the door, and then the door just shuts on him. It's
you just opened the door with a ram.
Like, so, but again, you can't blame the student because why the fuck is an instructor introducing a ram to people that don't even have the weapon craft to handle their guns, let alone go through a threshold? Like, it should be no door thresholds for 2 days, and then if they accelerate through all these classes, maybe at the last hour of the last day let them whack a couple doors with the ram. But like,
totally, that should not be
they whacked the door with the ram and there was no breach.
In the fact that that was like the pivot selling point of that day, like it kind of tells you everything.
Well, the post from the guy was, "Oh, I fucked that ram up," and I'm like, "Bro, your number one guy didn't even go through the threshold. He didn't go in path of least resistance. Number two guy didn't pin the door. There was nothing that happened other than number one pieing external and then the door shutting on them. And it's like, so if you have to breach this door a second time, you're all like, your number one guy's dead.
Now you're actively dying.
Yeah.
So.
and that's the other thing. All these dudes, they want to do CQB. That's tight. Like you do CQB, you're in a class with all these other dudes doing CQB. You're building like a camaraderie. If you're not doing that with those same people every fucking weekend,
right.
Everything that you just learned and did is something that you can walk away with.
Right.
But unless it's being applied, like what is CQB? It's tier 1 dudes or hostage rescue dudes or SRT dudes that work with the same fucking 12 dudes day in and day out.
There's surgical mount, precision mount, and high intensity mount. And a high intensity mount is like Fallujah, and that surgical mount is like, okay, Delta Boys have set up a mock building, and they have practiced on this building because they are going to hit this building. And like, I just,
and like the level of like Delta level of, if you miss a shot outside of the tee box, you're off the team. Like people don't realize that either. Like if you're doing CQB and you're fucking doing hostage rescue and shit, if you breach a door after a bang and you fucking drop a shot, you're gone. Like you're not good enough.
Right. Yeah.
And people don't realize on a hostage rescue standpoint, like
the margin for error that big, molecular.
Like dudes will do CQB once and be like, like, dude, I've done CQB classes. I do it with friends that we've done it over and over and over again with. There's no way shit hits the fan tomorrow. I'm not going into any buildings.
No, I'm staying the fuck away from them.
No, I'm gonna try to like blow it up.
Yeah, burn it the fuck down.
Burn it down, or intel. Watch it for days, and if no one leaves it, you're good.
That's it. Everybody was on this whole recce rifle, and I'm like, this whole recce rifle thing, and I'm like, but you guys don't even know how to do a reconnaissance. Like you don't know how to write down the habits of an observed human being for 3 days at a time. Like it's all.
Are you peeing into a bottle and not moving from your hide for 3 days, watching a building and making sure that whatever direction your sector of fire, no one's sneaking out the back.
In the Gorngal, I was Spiritus Systems, Adam Holwood's machine gun support for his sniper team. And so that means I'm in a sniper hide with my 240. And yes, rolling over slowly, take your little whiz in the bottle, put it away, and then roll back over. Like they probably still see you either way, but yeah.
and just people just like, it's like, no, you're not just gonna be like, oh, we need some canned beans. Let's hit that fucking house. Like you're really gonna potentially lose one of your team.
Right. It's gonna turn into a fucking shit show.
And then booby traps. And then all that fun shit. And it's like, are you prepared for this? Because honestly, like at the end of the day, you know what everyone's right in our community is there is gun culture in America. And that's something to be fearful of. If shit ever social economic collapse, you should be fucking terrified of your own people.
It would make Fallujah look like child's play.
Yeah.
Tiddlywinks.
Because everyone's been taught, hole up in a room, someone enters it, and fucking send rounds through the door if someone wants to breach. and I mean, I'm sure Fallujah and Afghan, I'm sure there was disciplined people that just waited.
Yeah.
Waited. They knew they were going to get fucking shot in the face, but they didn't care because they were going to take some people with them, and fucking terrifying. You got Americans that are like, this is my land, fuck you.
I heard a noise. Boom. Like, yeah.
And they know their house better than you. They hear footsteps downstairs. Like, dude, if anyone's fucking walking down and I know and I hear them touch tile, I'm just going to send big bore rounds through the floor. Like, I don't give a fuck. There's nothing under this hallway. Yeah. There's no water pipes. There's nothing that's going to stop my house from being my house. I'm just going to fucking send it, you know? People don't realize, like, a lot of times when you have that center fed going upstairs staircase, there's usually a hallway above it. You can shoot down and you just like mark your angles.
Yeah. True.
Did you ever, like, do any insurgents ever like mark doorways where someone's head would be on the inside of the door so they know like where to shoot?
I never witnessed anything like that, but I mean, I have absolutely seen, the booby traps like 150 pounds of HME under the front floorboard of the house.
Oh God.
And like obliterate an entire fire team. But yeah, okay, here's a good one for you. In that Overwatch position that we referenced earlier, the very first time we approached that building, I noticed hanging from the rafters of the stone building was a rag tied to a stick. And the stick had a large enough crook in it to rest a rifle. There was a hole in the stone wall, 10 feet away from that stick hanging. We were taking we just found a sniper hide. And this dude was resting his rifle tied to the rafters, and he was shooting us through a hole this big. But from 10 feet away, he could see anything he wanted at 400 meters and make that shot, and nothing would ever touch it.
Still a hard shot shooting from a rope. Like, even if he had a desk behind him and he was resting his like handguard or whatever on that rope, that's still a hard shot. But if he were in his sector of fire, I could have been at 400 yards. It's not doable.
Right. I mean, I remember we had taken these dudes to a bunch of ANA guys had been shot. And so we medevac them on foot to the LZ, sniper fire the entire way. We get the dudes to the LZ, and now I bring us into people's backyards. I'm like, okay, we got to figure out how to get back to the direction we just came. And I'm like, maybe if we shuffle through a few of these yards. I go to climb the first wall, and I see a bullet bounce off the wall in front of my face. And I'm like, nope, we're staying here until it gets dark. We're going to set up security, and this is what we have until it gets dark, man, because we are for sure going to get hit by this dude running back because we're getting bigger now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, we're getting in more effective range. And so, if you want to know how one dude with a DMR rifle can sideline an infantry platoon, that's how you do it. Just saying.
Yeah, and I mean, you're seeing, like, look at SIG too, right? So SIG's new belt fed, and then the spear in 277 Fury. Like, why do you think gun companies are coming out with mill rifles in slightly bigger bore, super spicy rounds? Because they're trying to compete with PKM Fire. Like, most people don't realize, like, PKM is a sniper bullet.
Yeah.
It is a sniper
7.62x54.
It is a sniper round from 1880 or some shit that literally has been it's 1800s that cartridge was developed, and it's still in service today
prominently
because it has an effective range of 1200 yards, and a PKM with a new barrel is extremely accurate at 800 yards, the size of a watermelon. Like, with iron sights, like, you might not you
might not see the cone of fire, but you don't really need to.
No,
as a gunner, like, you don't
even
really
if you're doing small little squish bursts out of it, like 2-3 round bursts out of it, and you have your elevation dialed, and you have a spotter calling your shots, and it's like, aim at that dark spot and keep doing short bursts. Like,
the assistant gunner should let you know everything you need to know.
You're talking a group this big at 800 yards of a PK. This is a fucking open bolt, and it's like, I've heard stories from dudes that are like, oh, I was suppressed from a PKM at 800 yards, and this rock the size of my head was taking rounds and protected me. And you're just like, oh my God, like, super good fucking dude behind the gun too. And it's another thing. Wait till dark, boogie, you know? Yeah, dude, that's just fucking terrifying. So like you see like the 277 Fury, you see other rounds coming out and being implemented in shorter AR platform guns in lightweight packages to compete with those ranges accurately.
Right. To be a viable contender against it.
And then you see the optic that came out for the Sig Spear, the Vortex that does all your range data in it. They're doing that because you're trying to touch dudes at 800 yards, and if you have an optic that does the work for your regular infantryman that might not go through sniper school and understand ballistics and understand measuring the size of a target,
you want that first round hit.
You might get it. It's more. It invest 12. I don't know how much that optic is, but I think it's like $6,000 or $8,000. Buy an $8,000 optic and throw it on this rifle, and you are guaranteed a higher loss of life than spending how much money it takes to put someone through multiple schoolhouses over multiple, years to achieve the same level of accuracy and data collection. And it's like it's the future soldier.
It took my DMR with the Mark 14 of Smith Enterprise. It took him 3 shots to hit a guy at 963 meters with that gun. And he's not a sniper school graduate. They had, a DMR course for DMR gunners, but like it was still, I'm like, man, like I really need you to get it together before he discovers he's being fucking shot at. And we don't have this opportunity anymore.
Right.
But yeah, man, an optic like that would have made that happen first round.
Yeah, it's technology's fucking crazy. But yeah, it's just like people don't understand. Like you were talking earlier, you want like the end all be all gun. So I built a 15.1. People are like, well, I didn't build, I bought a 15.1. People are like, why is it 15.1? I was like, well, called my friends who build rifles and they had a 15.1 in stock. And I said, why is it 15.1? And they said, because when you put an Allen Engineering can on it, the can is perfectly a C hair off the handguard. It looks great. Right. And I was like, cool. 15.1 is excellent. My buddies up at Ridgeline, their SPRs that they build out are 14.5 inch guns, not 18-inch guns, not 20-inch guns. They're 14.5s. And they're like, well, I'm only going to take a 5.56 gun between 600 and 800 yards max, and you're still getting the same ballistics out of a 14.5 as you would an 18-inch gun.
Right.
Like you're still cooking, you're still getting full powder burn.
Right.
At that point, it's not short enough that your dwell time's tiny and you're cooking off all this unburnt powder as the bullet exits the firearm. You're getting full cook off. So what's the problem? You run a 77 grain or like a 70 plus OTM Bowtail Hall point. You have a good barrel, and then my gun has like a super heavy profile barrel, which is great because guess what? It's not going to shoot it out fast. It's going to pull heat away from the system, and it's going to allow lots of follow-up shots accurately.
And that's also really good for like clip-on optics because like thermals. Like we used to have a very serious problem with, we never really mounted thermals on our 240s because they would get so hot that it would obscure what you were trying to look at.
Right. That's why they jogged upward on a lot of those clip-on thermals back then.
Totally.
And then, I said, well, it's a hunting gun. It's my coyote gun. I can hunt, like you can hunt coyotes under night vision. It's better under thermal, but dogs move fast enough at night that they're easy to pick up in your peripheral with your normal helmet mounted tubes that you're like, oh, what's that? You have a handheld thermal, you can be like, oh, coyote, and then track it with a handheld thermal and then take the shot through clip-on night vision. So I have clip-on night vision and that's why I have it set up that way. I do have a clip-on thermal coming. And then someone's like, well, if you have a clip-on thermal coming, or you could run dedicated thermal, why would you do it? I was like, well, maybe I want to take that thermal off and just run this gun in daylight, like, and not have to re-zero. Cause like I do have a dedicated night vision that I can take off, take on when I travel. And I've done it in between like, oh, we're going to heli hunt. Okay. Then clip it on. I've taken pigs with it. Obviously, anytime you unmount an optic and remount, you should probably re-zero, but they're close enough. The AMD mounts are good. But this guy's like, what are you hunting? Navy SEALs? Like, sorry, dude. I like to practice capabilities. I'd like to shoot under night vision. If I want to hunt, shoot under thermal, now I can just go bloop, and do it.
Like, right. Like that. I don't know. Again, that might be like some sort. I don't know. It's some kind of degree of elitism. It sounds like when people make criticisms like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or like why don't you
have to be hunting human?
Yeah, why don't you just have a super simple setup? Like just put a dedicated thermal on a dedicated lightweight, gun. I was like, no, I have that. I have exactly what you're telling me that I should have. I have that already. But that's not fun. It's too easy. Like I'd rather like practice a different capability. Plus, it's really cool. Like when you already have a clip-on night vision, you can teach dudes like night vision theory behind a rifle easier when it's a clip-on night vision and not when it's through tubes trying to shoot passively through a toilet paper tube of an aim point or something like that, right? It's like you now have magnification, you have a glass that takes in so much light, then why do you have a diving board? Well, guess what? Or
versatility.
Or you get the dudes like, oh well, Reptilia makes great stuff. They're like, well, I run a Reptilia at 170 and then I run my diving board optic because their diving board sits lower. That's sick if you're never putting a clip-on thermal on your gun or clip-on night vision. Like if you want high power glass at more heads up and then you want really heads up for your thing, that's tight. But the reason why I have a 154 scope mount for my Night Force is rifle fundamentals, multiple points of contact. I still want to be able to shoot this like it's a rifle.
Right, like you want a cheek to stock weld, not a chin to stock weld.
Exactly. I can do chin. I can do chin to stock for my diving board if I need to in an emergency. Right. Also, people don't realize diving board optics are really cool because like shooting precision rifle or long gun. I shoot precision rifle series. If I'm trying to find my target and summertime is green and it's a white target, it's really easy to see. I usually I'm behind the gun already. I just lift my head up and I look over my turret at my target and then I can just get behind it. But
that's the whole premise of putting a red dot on a spotting scope.
Exactly.
Like it also applies here. And I get the same stuff too, man. People will be like, oh, Marshall, why are you running three optic systems on your gun? And I'm like, well, irons, and then I have a magnified optic and a parallax free optic because they all do different things.
Dude, I've seen dudes running offset fucking Torrey Pines Logic thermals for CQB, and I think it's the coolest thing ever.
I think that's dope. You're talking about the little thermal
the unit, little right? ones.
I like it.
On
that's
a 45, on a 45 away from the ejection port, and I'm like, why? And they're like, well, when you're stalking dude CQB, see their footprints. You can peek corners real quick and just glance at it. You can glance if there's
context clues.
You can literally hang your rifle and brace it against a wall and just do a quick peek. And even if like your nods, because people don't realize if you're under night vision, you can't see if someone's still in the bushes with camo.
You're not going to see them.
You can't fucking see them.
No, it's like just because you have night vision doesn't mean you're going to see a fucking thing.
Right. All you have to do is just peek the corner just enough to see your fucking Torrey Pines Logic around the corner.
This is genius.
And then if someone's hot at the end of the hallway, where they're hot. You know where it's hot, and those Torrey Pines Logics.
You can get a fucking shot. You can get a shot from around the corner.
Well, you might not be able so they don't have reticles and they're not zeroed. Like they do have like the newer ones do, but they got bigger. You have a window. You have a window and you can at least like suppress that person to get someone to move because they don't know you see them in dark hallway. So you could still like, okay, like you could still have your field of view on the Torrey Pines Logic aligned at some distance with, there's no zeroing capability in Torrey Pines Logic on that one that I saw. And I have one too. I've got the older model. But at least for the sake of, oh, there's a dude there, maybe you're just gonna hit him with white light. You can point the rifle at him, blind him for a hot second, and take a shot. Like, you know, you have options. You have options, and
I actually really like that idea.
And also, if you're going through a building with sheetrock and someone's leaned up against the wall, you can see the heat signature through the wall. So he was like, "Yeah, I run this because I can peek and you know, see these things." And
genius.
Like I went through FLIR school for thermography, so I like, you know, I was like, oh, how. When I moved into my house, I was like, well, I'm just going to grab one of my handheld thermals and see where my attic is devoid of insulation. You know, where do I need to put insulation without cutting holes in walls? But yeah, someone leans up against the wall and that heat goes through sheetrock really quickly. So I thought it was the coolest thing ever, seeing a thermal offset on a rifle. I thought it was the coolest thing.
I like the idea.
And I was like, man,
think that's awesome.
And yeah, you know, it's like, that makes a lot of sense. That would check a lot of boxes and probably preserve life. You know, I mean, you can run clip-on thermal on these short guns too, but you know, how many dudes are going to run clip-on thermal CQB? Probably more often now, but but I think it was a really cool application of it. And I'm sure tons of people do it, but just seeing it and like, it's like, oh, that's fucking rad.
Yeah. I like the idea.
Yeah. So you love super capable weapon systems. Your gun's good to what, 700, 800. What, I mean,
okay. So here's the deal, man. I had, a guy that trained with me. He just recently, I forget which academy he went to. I think it was I want to say like Counting Coup guy. But yeah, at any rate, he sent his Mark 12 out to a mile. And he did it on 2.5 power magnification because that afforded him enough fucking
elevation.
Right, yeah, to be able to go that far.
Because if you put like a 5 to 25 on it, you wouldn't, even if you were using like a Horus 59 H59 reticle and you were maxed out on your dial, you're still, you couldn't do it. I've shot a mile before with 260 rem, and I was at 26 mils of elevation. So that's max. My turret maxed out at 22 from my zero stop, and I still had to hold the difference. I'm trying to think of, I can't remember for the life of me how many minutes of angle of adjustment he was at. It was ridiculous, man. I don't talk MOA. I don't even MOA.
That's what he was using.
But also, you're talking perfect fucking wind. Like, yeah. Like I think I saw the photo of the steel target. It was like 2 or 3 impacts or something like that. Yeah. You're still talking, and it has to be legitimately dead wind. Like, like that's cool, but also how fast is your bullet moving at a mile for 5.56? Like, I don't think you
we're not speaking to terminal ballistics on it because it's damn near worthless at that range.
I mean, 5.56 at a grand is still pretty weak.
Yeah. And I don't know. I personally have taken my gun out to 800. I did that in Virginia. And did it, pretty consistently. So, I mean,
no, 800 is totally doable, even with the lower powered optic. It's just
like I just it's all right, man. That full size gun of mine is all right.
Yeah, and I mean, also people like, it's cool. Like I think I'm thinking like I'll max take it to 600, because at 600 through an LPVO on a white steel target, okay, in broad daylight it's fine, but then you put a clip-on night vision on there. You're not seeing shit, even with a long throw high spectrum IR head. Yeah. Those high spectrum IR heads, you're still throwing purple light. Like if you're downrange, you can still see purple being emitted from it's again, more of those range theatric scenarios where it's like, well, I can do this with my gun. And it's like, all right, put some dudes at 800 yards in full camo and face paint or like balaclavas
and try to engage them.
Moving slow and tell me you can fucking see them under night vision, or you can see them even during daylight. They're in a wood, they're in a wood line. Find the target.
You've got a several second flight time. Like, yep, good luck. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to test your capabilities, but it's like when people are like, well, how can I get a gun, like a 5.56 gun to do this, or like 308, like,
right. Yeah.
Someone bought a SCAR and they're like, oh, it was an honest question. They just didn't know. They're like, I want a DMR that's good for 800 to 1200 and 308. That's consistent. I'm like,
you're like, stop looking at 308.
1200 yards at 308. That's like 89 feet of drop. Yeah, the bullet drops 89 feet in flight. So get a spicy round. Like, why do you think, like, you're talking, and I was like, well, you're talking like sniper rounds now. Like, you're talking like spicy Wildcat calibers to do what you want out of a gas gun accurately. Like, yeah, I mean, I think GA Precision's Gap 10 or Seekins sells the SP10M 16-inch 6.5 Creedmoor. Those are all like fully braced, bagged. Your wind call's good. You're consistently hitting a 2 foot by 2 foot target at $1,000 over and over and over again with pretty fast engagement. If you have your wind calls right, and that's pretty good. Like, I think 16-inch 6.5 Creedmoor is like fucking creme de la creme, but you're not pushing it past $1,000.
Right. I mean,
consistently and fast.
I mean, at that point, it's like more for the sake of the sport of long distance shooting than real world application. At least to us as civilians, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I was like, yeah, if you're gonna buy a DMR type gun, don't buy a SCAR. Like, buy one of these Wildcat, like buy one of these like boutique 6.5 Creedmoor AR-10s and get a really nice barrel for it, put a really nice can on it, and like, there's your gun. I mean, you're not going to be going to the range and burning $3 a shot to see how fast you can run. But it's cool to have the capability, but people don't realize what their limitations are. And it's like,
well, let's say it is a 308 semi-auto. Now you can carry for the same amount of space only 120 rounds of ammunition comparatively to the 230. My math might be off right now, but the 210 or 230, that's 7 AR-15 magazines, and that's not something that people take into account. Like your efficacy with regard to your suppressing ability. That strength is obviously going to be with the smaller caliber carbines like a 5.56, and not like a 308 or a 6.5. You're just limited in that context.
And you're also talking 700 something rounds on one person. That's like 35 pounds of ammo. On top of all their kit, on top of their gun, on top of whatever weather they're moving through, on top of not flat terrain. So now you're talking your automatic gunner, DMR gunner. How fast can they move? It also dictates the speed of your group, your fire team.
Yeah, like if you're gonna make that step up, just get a medium machine gun, and that way it truly is a team effort, and everybody can carry that little slice of ammo for you. And I mean, just yeah,
we talked about that today. Talking about that in our group. Like, part of me wants to buy one of those Fight Light. Like,
it's too light.
The belt fed 5.56 upper.
You're better off with your PKM.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. If I get unloaded, it's only 17 pounds. Rather just carry that unloaded and just having assault packs like glued to my back and have two other dudes carrying assault packs and be at like 700 rounds of that spread across a fire team.
I had an assault pack rigged up for my assistant gunner that was modified to feed a belt of 7.62 out of it, and that way he had a satchel with 1,000 rounds of 7.62 on tap. All he had to do was get to me and the gun. That's it.
That's tight.
Yeah.
240. I can't imagine carrying that around. Like PKM is like fucking small potatoes.
It's a real comfortable burden. I'll tell you that. I mean,
but you know what's nice about 240? It runs a lot better than the PKM. It needs a lot less maintenance. People think PKMs because it's like upside down AK. They are fucking bomb proof. They're not. Sheet metal receivers for a gun that shoots a fucking sniper caliber beat themselves to death. And I don't care how many fucking PKMs you've seen employed and battle. They fucking suck. I love my PKM, but Larry Vickers treated this PKM like hot garbage when we got it, and it had broken trigger pins and a bent receiver, and the fucking ejection port was out of timing, and it was it wasn't extracting correctly, and it was overgassed. And it's just like, dude, they're so finny. And then I put a can on it like a bozo.
And you almost blew it up.
Right? And then I talked to an alpha dude, and I'm like, hey, this is the issue I'm having. Like a Russian alpha guy, obviously pre-Ukraine, because and I was talking to this guy, and he's on Instagram. He was like one of their like cadres at the Spetsnaz schoolhouse, and I was just like, dude, this is what's happening. And he's like, turn the gas up. And I was like, this doesn't sound like the right solution to the problem.
Like did he say up?
Yeah, no, he said turn it to gas setting 3. So I ran a belt through a gas setting 3 and I broke a trigger pin. And then my feed cover is like stuck. Like if I literally had to like take it and then stick a rod through the curl where it locks in the receiver and fucking hammer it open. And it's all hardened fucking sheet metal. And I don't know if you guys understand how fucking terrible case hardened fucking sheet metal is. It's fucking impossible to move. And like these receivers start to twist and stuff. It's wild. So like, yeah, oh yeah. And I probably put like 1,000 rounds through my PKM, and I was like abusing it because I watch all these videos and I talk to dudes. They're like, oh, we abuse the shit out of them. This is how we do it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do that too.
Yeah.
Now I don't run it suppressed anymore. It's on a very specific cleaning regimen. And
it's a princess.
And
it has to be pampered.
It absolutely has to. And the other thing people don't realize is so like PKMs come from the factory with 2 blueprinted barrels from the factory. This is a Voltor receiver on a polished kit. So it was headspace to those 2 barrels that I have. So even if I burn those 2 barrels out, which are 20,000 round barrels, if on a machine gun swap regiment, I do have more barrels for my PKM. I bought a couple off some friends, bring back. They look cool, but they're not headspace to the gun, so I can blow the gun up. So I have to headspace it before I run these other barrels that I bought. But PKM's from the factory, 2 barrels. 1 installed in the gun, 1 extra, and they're married to that gun. And when both those barrels are shot out, they have to go back for certain. Yeah, it's toast. Yeah, it's toast. Yeah. And then you see the guys with like alpha PKMs, and it's like the second you put that Zenico handguard on the front, you can't hot swap barrels.
Fuck, that's a big problem
because it blocks your ability to remove your barrel.
Right. Well, that's no good.
Correct. Anyway, so your passion project is dogs.
I feel like it's been a wild ride getting into dogs. Because sure, I'm gonna go do this thing, and these dogs have literally kicked my fucking shit.
And you are not a dog handler at all professionally. This is 100% novice passion project.
I ended up training 2 dog trainers that are former handlers, and they're Marines, and they had ended up, Marshall, do you want a puppy? And like I'm looking at this little dude, and hey B, get over here. Let me see if you
I have a German dog, and
Yeah.
like German dog, and I want to throw her off a
Vinny,
cliff.
get over here.
She's super disciplined, prize one dog. I want to throw her off a cliff most days.
Come here, bud. Vinny, up. Let's say hi to Alex.
Hey, Vinny. Hi,
Oh,
puppy.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's my dude.
He's beautiful, but I mean, these are people don't realize when they buy work dogs, they're fucking work dogs, and if they're not working, they want to destroy your life.
Yeah, like they have to have work. They aren't a pet. They aren't a pet. If you want a pet, don't get one of these dogs. Like it's almost like I've had to come up with new hobbies, like sprinting up mountains and stuff. Like I don't know, dude. Like it's so. It's but the work, man. It shows you a lot about other people and where the way they interact with their dog. This dog work shows you about other people. It shows you which people in your life have accountability. I mean, that's provided, of course, you're holding your dog accountable and yourself accountable. That's the biggest part of it, is accountability.
Absolutely. I apologize for looking down at my phone. I was emailing myself to look into the price of dog treadmills. Because I have a kid, got 2 dogs, a business and a wife, and I'm like, so I rode my dog. I have a side by side, and I have the roading rig for it with a harness for her. But summer, it's too hot to run her because her pads will peel on hot pavement. So I can road her from pretty much now till like June. And typically it's at night, but I don't like roading her at night because people try to pass me on my side by side in my neighborhood and they might not see her. So roading's fun. Plus my rig, my ATV is not street legal. So there's always the cops that roll through that want to give you a citation for doing that. They have to run and they have to hunt. And my dog's a hunting dog, and it's like so much fucking work. Your dog is like a work dog, like bike trained, fucking like it's a gun dog. And
Vinny's a protection dog, and like so, yeah, we follow that Kohler method of training. But Vinny's a tiny bit different from like a police canine. Is that Vinny's kind of expected to exist in environments like a household and stuff like that, and be acceptable around kids and things like that. So I mean, it's just once you develop like this bite in a dog, the liability is massive, and everything surrounding, like, cool, you have a dog that bites, like, do you have a dog that's also additionally not going to freak out under certain sensory stimuli exposure and freak out and bite somebody? Does this dog have the world it knows is what we show it? And so if it isn't shown what is acceptable human behavior to act on and what is unacceptable human behavior to act on, you might have a dog that will haul off and bite somebody just because it saw you shake somebody's hand.
It's terrifying. And it goes across the board, not only for like protection dogs, police dogs, but like hunting dogs too. Like I have a sick command for my dog. If I shot a bird and I know the bird's dead and she hasn't smelled death yet,
right?
That bird still smells like it's alive to her. She might point it and it's in some shit cover that I can't get to and I need her to retrieve it. And she's on hard point, which means like you either have to physically move the dog, a gun has to go off, or she has to actually register the command to break point. You know, I just tell
it's
her,
equivalent of being on a bike for
pretty much. And I'm like, get it, you know, like, or she'll be chasing something. I know I'm not gonna be able to get it. I wounded it. It's not gonna get back up. I can't shoot it again. It's like, I just say like her sick command is get it. And I don't use that fucking command at all for anything but those moments. That's it. She knows the scenario, you know, and then she knows she'll break point and fucking grab it. But she's taught to hold point through the shot. But like the same thing with Vinny, like I've seen you do bite stuff with him, but at the same, you probably don't want to do bite work all the time because you don't want that to be like what they default to.
Right. Well, and then they start to associate other things with the bite. Like very rarely does he do bites under live fire around firearms, because then he'll start to get cued in to the firearm as as an indicator or a prompt towards, okay, I'm getting ready to bite. And so like less is more with bite work.
Yeah.
It truly is, man. I will tell you though that when he gets a bite in, or it's a protection class day, he sleeps like a baby. And it's the most adorable thing ever.
Is he like wound up the next morning though? Because like when my dog works, she goes to sleep really well, but
Yeah.
it's fucking ass crack of dawn outside of her normal sleep schedule. She's like fucking stir crazy the next day. Like, let's do it
Probably
again. Let's do it
she's
again.
still amped on it. Yeah.
Let's do it again. Does Vinny do any of that? Like after doing?
He just mellows out for the following day.
That's
like,
cool.
He's a lot more mellow, and then like once the energy starts getting pent up, then he'll start being, you know, he'll act like little dickhead, and but yeah, he's it's been a blast with these dogs.
And you love it, and that's super important. You have to be committed to it. You have to have. It sucks having as much responsibility as I do, because she's like a full-time job. Like if I'm traveling for work, my wife's like, I don't want her. I don't fucking want her, because like my wife doesn't have time to walk 2 dogs and a kid, and you know, work and take care of the house and, you know, maintain security. Like my wife also has to maintain security of the household when I'm gone, and my wife shoots, you know, between security systems, shooting, all that stuff. It's a lot of responsibility, and my dog is incessant. Like even down to like when my wife's playing with her kid, my dog will literally be in her crate, be fucking whining. Like, I want to play.
They'll bully you. Yeah.
And I'm sure my dog will settle in 10 years.
Yeah, that's what some lady asked me. They're like, does he slow down? And I was like, well, probably in like 11 years.
Yeah, so. probably when they're dead.
When he dies, he'll slow down. So.
Like, and it's crazy. These work dogs too. They're such creatures of habit. So like, and they also tell you, they're like, so she's 7:15. If she's not fed, she's fucking nightmare. And so sometimes she gets like when the clocks change. Oh my god! So
it's turned her whole world upside down.
It's so like when the clocks changed. Oh my god! So I basically go down to her crate. Yeah. She's standing up, like, time to go outside, time to get fed, time to piss, like all this. And like to break those habits, it's a month of going downstairs at 6:15 a.m., putting her fucking collar on, her e-collar, and giving her a fucking no command with heat and going back upstairs. And she will wait a full hour, and on the nose 7:15 start fucking panicking. You're just like,
wow.
And then the thing is, like, if my kid had a rough night, she's start kicking him off. So he's waking up with a wet diaper. And my other dog's cue to get up is when he hears my kid cry, because he's the old dog, so he's the protector of my kid.
Right.
So the second my kid starts chirping, that dog starts whining. And it's just symphony of fucking
insanity.
And you become hypervigilant as a parent. And a parent of like, so we had our dog a year before we had our kid.
Yeah.
And she pissed and shit her box so fucking much. People don't realize female dogs are a lot harder to house train than male dogs. My fucking bitch still fucking pisses on we have deep carpets upstairs. She like assimilates it to grass. She'll go upstairs and it'll fucking piss the carpet if she really wants to, like if she's really desperate. Goodness. And she has, we have to regulate. They drink out of the same water bowl a lot. She has her own water ball, but it's always empty.
This is the thing, man. And like Vinny, you know, with the presence of another dog, they just tag team the water. And they're idiots about it. Like they won't stop until they're pissing all over the place an hour later.
Yeah, you have to regulate water so carefully. And like, and it's crazy too. Like when we first got her, she's better now, but she used to pace the office for like 4 hours because she wanted me to give her water. And I was like, you already had water. give her water. She starts pacing, crying, go piss. She'll still piss the floor. Like, it's fucking wild. And she doesn't regulate her water intake. We have to. So we don't give her water after 5 p.m. even now at the 2-year mark, because she's still fucking, and she won't piss her box with me. But again, my wife's dealing with the kid, the other dog, other stuff, working from home, whatever. She'll leave the water on the ground. So we now have a rule in the house, only like a quarter of the bowl is full at any time.
Yeah.
Because my wife used to fill it up to the top.
And then the whole thing would be gone.
And then she would walk, like the kid would cry, so she'd run upstairs, but not put her in her box because she's that dog. She'll counter serve, so she has to go back in her box. And if my wife just forgets to put her in her box, the water's gone. My wife doesn't realize the water's gone, puts her in her box. She pisses her box. She also went through a phase of pissing her fucking box in protest that my wife was playing with our kid. Even though she had gone out, she was just like, I pissed my box. She has to change my bed, which takes time, which means I'm not going to be put away. So she pissed her box, and she's got a squeal to her when she pisses her box. She's got a sound she makes when there's piss in the box. And we're just like, I'm going to kill that dog. I'm going to fucking take it back.
I just returned the carpet cleaner to Home Depot today. Because again, because again, dipshit dog tag teamed a gallon of fucking water with the other dog, and and I'm over here on day Z. Unbeknownst to me, like I walk into the bathroom, my entire bath mat is fucking filled with piss.
They love pissing on mats.
Yeah, dude.
And vomiting on mats.
Yeah, I'm like, you ruined my life, dude. Like, and there was already a couple.
Vinny.
Yeah, Vinny, man. Come on, dude, man. Come on. Good boy.
He's got such a beautiful brindle.
Yeah.
To him.
I had a dude in Maryland. He's like, I ain't never seen a brindle German Shepherd, and I'm like, well, you still haven't, buddy.
He's big. He's a big boy. Is he Belgian?
80 pounds. He's Belgian and Dutch Shepherd.
Okay, cool.
Right. And Dutch Shepherds kind of have this genetic, like intrinsic compulsion. Like their eyes will change. Like they'll go from, happy-go-lucky dog to what's up, motherfucker? and all of a sudden we've entered the Twilight Zone. And it's just, they're insane. It's a Dutch Shepherd thing. The Malinois, that's different. Dutch Shepherds have a genetic insanity.
Yeah, I feel the genetics too, because my dog, she's a Deutsch Kurzhaar, so she's like German short hair, and bred on the DK like lineage line, like very strict, very strict breeding, very strict requirements for the dogs to be bred in the DK sector. So a lot of people are like, nice GSP, and it's like, I've stopped telling them what she is because it's just no one actually fucking cares. And she's like the hipster version of a GSP. So
here's the thing, man. Sometimes when people ask what breed Vinny is, I fucking lie to them, bro. I fucking lie to them because I don't want them to think that they can go out and get one of these dogs and that what is going to happen to that dog will be a disservice to the breed.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm, and so like, yeah, you can call it safeguarding. I guess while I have it, I will safeguard it. So like if it's Joe Schmo out on the street and like in Kmart or something, and they want to know what breed Vinny is, like he's totally a German Shepherd. Go ahead and buy a German Shepherd, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, people don't realize too, like, my wife actually today, she's like, I don't want another one. Like when she's old, you're not. I was like, no, I'm now a DK owner. When she is on her last 2 years of hunting, I want her to mentor the next pup. Right. I think the next pup will be better mannered than she is because she'll have a mentor, and she's a female, so she'll kick its ass if it's out of line. Because I've watched her mother beat the shit out of her at the kennel, and it's when she goes to Dave's place for dog work or boarding. He's like, want to see Jada fuck her up? And I was like, yeah, whatever. And fucking Jada comes out fucking boom, like hits my dog like a fucking freight truck, like steamrolls her over, pins her to the ground, and she's like, do something, like, because it's her pup, she knows it's hers, and she's like, do something. And I'm just like, man, I wish I had, or sorry, not Jaden. I wish I had Jaden at the house every once in a while to put my fucking dog in check.
God damn.
Yeah, but like but after I've shot like 150 fucking birds over this dog in 2 seasons, she's a fucking bird monster, and she's good at throttling it. Like, she hunts, she doesn't just hunt with her nose, she hunts with her eyes. So if she goes on point for a pheasant in a thicket and she sees it run and it gets out of a certain proximity, she'll fucking give chase, which is great because I can hear the change in her body and how she moves and the pace of her footsteps, because she's so heavy footed with these big ass feet.
Yeah.
That I'm like, oh, she's moving a bird out the back. So I'll fucking position myself and like get adjacent to the shrub, knowing like I can see, oh, there she is. Fucking, she flashes orange through the, she runs a vest. Or she runs
isn't learning to read your dog a beautiful thing? It's
the only thing. Like, people don't realize, like, bird dogs, like upland bird hunting, it's all about the dog. It doesn't matter if you shoot 100 birds. Like, obviously you can't legally shoot 100 birds in a day, but if you shoot, your bag, that's great for you. It's better for the dog. It's all about the dog. The dog is a superstar, dude. Like, it's how these animals work for us, because that's what they're bred to do.
Well, and like, I had to learn, how to read Vinny in tracking. It's a big deal. Like, how do I know he's on track? Like, I can judge by his ear positioning. How do I know he's air scenting? Like, all of these things, man. And when you are in it and you're on like that 15-foot tracking lead, like, which is what you start with, because it's a lot of leash to manage. It's almost like jumping in a bobsled and going down. Like you're in it, and then you get to analyze everything after the fact. But while you're in it, there's a lot going on.
Do you, when you track, real quick, when you're tracking, so like with my dog, we do tracking too.
Yeah.
So when you train her, we take a pheasant, basically like pull some feathers out of the pheasant, and we just basically kick the pheasant's ass and it goes running.
Right.
It runs through a field. And I take those feathers and I put them on the ground at the base of where the pheasant took off. Yeah. I'll bring her up, and she's on collar, and I already have her unleashed, but I have her on collar, and I put her nose into the feathers, and I say track, 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 track. So, and then I walk her in the direction that the pheasant is. Yeah. And if her head's not glued to the ground, I'll go back to the feathers. And then I'll walk her back to, I say, track, track, track. I'll point the ground, and she glues her nose to it. And the second she like pulls my arm out, that's when I let go. And then she just fucking boogies on that line. Do you have to do the same thing with Vinny, where like that's your tell to let go, is when he does that action of like driving?
For the most part, unless it's like cadaver search and rescue, things like that, you, for the most part, keep the dog on the leash the entire time. But if the decoy or the track layer, he'll take off, and he'll go to the end point, and he'll drop an article. And, upon starting, I'll grab that article and I show it to Vinny. And, he sticks his face in it for a second, and I say, go find him. And then I gesture in the direction of the track layer. And at that point, like, I'm riding the lead the rest of the way in. So you might hold this lead for, against a dog that's like straining to track. Like, he's very good at tracking.
That's cool.
He pulls hard as fuck.
And you stay on lead though for tracking.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Much different.
Well, Vinny in particular, because of the work that he also does, like a cadaver dog will not also do protection work, because you don't want, you know what I'm saying? You don't want a chance that dog to go ahead and find, a trapped person in rubble and then fucking bite him.
Right.
It's a little bit different context with Vinny. So he's, for the most part, for most of his life, on leash for tracking.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and that makes sense too. And then back to like on my side of things for hunting dogs, like you can train. I could train her to do fur bearing as well, like foxes, rabbits, and stuff. But I don't mix those two things. I don't mix them because I'm a bird hunter. I don't want to be hunting upland birds and then
Right.
have her get on a fucking
Rabbit.
snow hare
Yeah.
or a fox
Right.
and just be like, and then just take off. Cause like, nope, that's not what, like, and that comes down to the versatility of these dogs. Like these dogs are super versatile. Your dog's super versatile. It can do cadaver, it can do bite work, protection, like whatever. It's generally stick to it. I did have a friend, she was like running her dog on rabbits and it's a bird dog, and I'm like, that's not good too, because now you're ground shooting when and the dog is chasing a rabbit, because the rabbits don't stay, like the dog doesn't point a rabbit.
Right.
The rabbit's always moving.
Hey, is my video still up?
Yeah.
Because okay, my
You're good, dude.
my camera flash blew at me for some reason.
No, you're good. You're still we're still recording and stuff, but yeah, like she was like, "Oh, out rabbit hunting." On that. She was like, "Oh, cuz he tracks rabbits." And I'm like, "That's great, but you're now ground shooting where your dog could be chasing that rabbit."
Yeah.
You could
like
shoot your dog when the dog was trained to stay on point. You flush the bird. The dog doesn't chase it. Are you flushing a rabbit and then ground shooting? And then like, it's just pick one or the other.
Like on the same deal, man. Like you'll run into guys that think they have like this valid dog, and they're like, yeah, I've even ran into a dude who's like, my dog has a thing about guns. I'm like, what the fuck are you going to do in a defensive fucking shooting? Like you're going to get attacked, or your dog's head is going to get blown apart when he tries to attack the end of your fucking gun, because he's associated, right? Like, and this is again why the not so much live fire around the bite work.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah,
and when to introduce guns to your dog is important. People like gun dogging is a fucking recipe to it.
What's on your side of the fence? How do you guys do it?
I mean, it's one of those things. They get the dogs on birds first. They start with like cap gun or like starter pistols with 22 blanks, like brown 22 nail setters.
So the drive comes first before the
drive first. Stressor. You want to get them driven to the bird on point, holding point, so that becomes the focus of their work. And then as they start getting on point and figuring out pointing, then you incorporate walking up to the bird, flushing the bird, and then they'll hold like a starter pistol at their hip away from the dog, and you get that that snap.
Okay.
And if the dog ignores it and is focusing on the bird flying away and the dog's holding, it's typically
then that's good.
Then that's good. And then obviously, if the dog is shy from the shot, you do it more often.
Right.
Keep them target oriented on their bird, and then incorporating the shooting so that they're not distracted by the shooting and they realize shooting's a good thing. And then once they get to the point where there's no more flinching to the shot and they're just hyper fixated on the bird, then they'll transition over to like a 20 gauge shotgun and they'll actually shoot the bird. And then when the bird goes down, then you drop,
then you
get the release command, fetch it up, and then they'll go fetch the bird, and then you start connecting those dots. But it always starts with the goal first before incorporating the shooting. Now we're shooting first. So.
Right. I like Vinny has been pretty fortunate because he goes to work with me. He goes out onto the shooting range with me. And I know, like, so he's present there while dudes are running around with guns. They're making a bunch of noise. They're yelling at each other. Then he's indifferent to it. So it's nice.
Yeah, I've seen videos of you on the line with dudes, and then you go prone, and Vinny lays between your legs, and he's just kind of like, "What are all these fucking idiots doing? I'm just chilling."
He's like, "I don't know, but we're chilling." So yeah, I don't know what they're up up to.
No, I feel that. So I mean, we're rounding the corner at an hour and 47 minutes. I mean, you and I could talk for fucking ever. That's the problem.
I'm gonna take a drink of this beer.
Yeah, drink this beer. But I guess my question for you is there any closing comments that you want to throw in here? Any information about your classes, information about other things that we talked about that you want to get in there before we close up? Because I don't like to make these podcasts longer than like 2 hours, because then people get a little disassociated and zone off into the void. And it also opens up the opportunity, like, let's do this again.
Yeah. I specifically only do closed enrollment. And so if you want a class with me, this is part of this whole initiative thing, reach out to me, and then we get a class, our training program started. And each curriculum is tailored to each team or individual shooter. I mean, it's dependent on the number of people, but each curriculum is pretty tailored to each person. I'm not sitting around here trying to get 20 guys in on one class on a cookie cutter curriculum, if that makes sense. So
that drives price. People,
your
classes are, someone looks at your class price, they're like, holy fuck. But it's like, no, you're getting a custom built class to what you're trying to accomplish with a group of individuals.
Yeah, like a guy wanted me to drive all the way across the country and teach a machine gun class in Idaho for 3 days. That was, yes, it was expensive. Who else are you going to call to come do that?
Yep. Who's gonna come do that? I mean, was that a private? Like, this guy wanted?
Yeah, that was private. Yeah.
And how many people did he have?
Oh, he had 2 dudes, and he had an RPD. So, yeah, and he was like, "Hey, you want to come teach some machine gun stuff?" And I was like, "Sure," and did it outside Boise.
Oh, if he can pay for it, fuck it.
He paid for it.
Yeah, so. I mean, if you, and that's the thing, you're again, firearm fundamentals is super important. Take as many classes as you can with as many people as you can afford. But
we don't know what we don't know, man. And like, if you have,
when you want to take it really, truly seriously, tell you.
Yeah, well, like, it's showing you the parts of this that, I mean, those dudes in Texas on this last class, they saw, like, in one day, they saw the benefit in having cohesion as a team. Like, because they were allowed to, they were given that space to falter and fail and then remedy the problem and correct it. And like, now they don't need me out there to get that to a functional level, because they've been shown what it looks like. Right. And so now they have something to work towards until the next time I get out. Yeah. And I'm really kind of like a guy you should annually or biannually just have look at your work and then make adjustments. I'm like a personal coach, but for your firearms and, functional, practical marksmanship.
Yeah, I think that's actually I think there's a great perspective there, is like, take a class, get dialed in, get online with your group, and then once a year you guys save up your fucking, put a separate piggy bank aside to save up for a class with Marshall, and reassess.
And then we see where we're at with it and what needs to be done in order to get it rounded up,
and then close those holes up, work on it, do your homework. Year later, okay, what's next? But you have to put in the time. It's tough getting 4 dudes together that have responsibilities.
I mean, like, one of these guys drove from 5 hours away to where I was at in Dallas, Fort Worth area in order to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's great. Definitely a sacrifice.
That's a sacrifice. And I was saying more like, a couple of people in my group have families, so like getting the time allotted for that versus someone, like, if you're a younger person listening to this podcast and you have 4 dudes that are like-minded that don't have a lot of
these
obligations, like multiple pets, like children, maybe allocate your money now.
Right.
and get it down now.
Like get this in while you can afford the time to.
Because even patrolling, like even like hiking with guns in a formation and and communicating, and going into tighter forests versus more open, spread out, like
and
just that ebb and flow of your patrol. I mean that takes
time,
days of doing it together to get a rhythm.
Well, you look at like military, Alex, like they get months out in the field. Constantly. I'm like, we as civilians cannot fucking afford that.
No.
Like, we just can't afford the time. And it sucks. So we have to condense this down into something digestible or palatable in, a couple day period. And act accordingly.
But yeah, and then it's like, okay, cool. But educate yourselves. There's literature out there. You can buy or download all these different military handbooks. It's free information. And it's all diagrams. Like machine gun theory is all diagrams. Like everything is fucking pictures too. And it's like
we've had a quarter century of counterinsurgency. There is no fucking shortage of guys who have been in the saddle. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have one of these dudes in your group, like you have your internal thing to bounce knowledge off of or to bounce theory off of. Like, hey, are we doing this fucking right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep. Yeah. And then it's just work as a team, practice. It's practice. And even if you can only meet 8 times a year, that's 8 times more than 99.999% of dudes on Instagram that think they're fucking hitters. you know, it's like you're putting in that much more work, and it's not like we said, it's not the fucking flashy range theatrics. It's literally walking your physical cadence with kit, supporting each other,
walking and chewing bubblegum at the same time, basically.
I mean, even today it was like, who has a writing utensil and a notebook? Like, do we have maps of the area printed? Do we, it's like even down to such super simple stuff. And then you're like, oh, I left that in that box at my house, So here's me like, oh, fuck, I need to build out a singular pack. I was like, well, I have this mystery ranch packed for like when I travel with night vision. I have this one packed for like this size animal that I'm recovering from the woods. This is my travel pack an elk one. This is my fucking travel duffel that keeps
one for each day of the week.
But people don't realize, like, if you do a lot of hunting and you have to, like, what are we hunting? Are we hunting mountain goats? Like, I need this super lightweight setup because I'm going to shoot mountain to mountain and then have to recover the animal. There's different, it's not like you can't just have one bag set. I'm a bag whore, dude. Really a fucking bag whore. I've like, I hate to say it. I like have a pro staff account for Mystery Ranch, and then they had like a pro staff discount on top of your discount, and it was like 60% off bags, and I bought a lot of fucking bags, and I still need more bags. Like I've got my desert I've got like my desert hunting bag that's super lightweight, that's water wicking away from my body, like to carry oryx and other things, and a rifle, and it's like, then like my other Mystery Ranch Assault 3 is set up for PRS, because in PRS you have to bring all your shit in, you have to bring all your shit out. So I have like that bag is set up. Then I have that Assault 1 pack that's like got my helmet bag on it and all this other shit.
Jesus.
For when I travel, like you don't want to demob your fucking bag every time you come back from a trip and take your helmet bag off, all that, weave all that molly, like, yeah. So like now I'm like, holy fuck, like I don't have, like, I have a precision like day bag.
You don't have like a rucksack for the sake of sustainment.
No, I do. Okay, my big animal bag is still like a rucksack.
Okay.
It's just, it's got chambers to put fucking meat, but you can also put like, packing cubes in there too. So I do have like my rucks, like my heavy duty. Yeah. This is like, I'm in the wilderness for 9 days rucksack. Like I have that. Yeah. But I was like, I don't have a fucking patrol style day bag that's set up with some type of water purification, you know, some type of fire starter, like wet weather fire starter,
like a 72-hour pack.
Yeah, I need a 72-hour pack that's set up just for this. So obviously, like, I've got tons of fire starter, I've got tons of ways to make fire, I've got tons of ways to water purify, I've got all this stuff, but I just haven't put it into a bag yet. And today was one of those days where I'm like, fuck, I need another bag. I just need one bag that has all the stuff that lives in it and it doesn't leave it. Like, I have action packers with that. Like, I don't know if anyone was in Boy Scouts back in the day, but we use action packers, these big, like, plastic.
I have no idea what those are.
Action packers, just like, literally, it's the name brand of these big fucking polyurethane resin fucking cube. Like, you know, it's just, it looks like a fucking Rubbermaid crate, but heavy duty. Like, it's got these heavy duty latches on it, and it has a good enough seal that, like, they would put them in the canoes in Boy Scouts, and if you tipped your canoe, this thing's floating, you know. And each fucking, like, little squad in fucking Boy Scouts had an action pack. It had everyone's mess shit in there, like cooking utensils. It had like it had your gas stove at the bottom, your propane. It had like emergency first aid, backup food rations, backup water, and some extra like headlamps and stuff. Like that was your, like, this is the soul of your 4-man squad in your canoe, and you're out in fucking Boy Scouts. And so, like, I still brought that from Boy Scouts. I have action packers set up with like camping gear. All my camping stuff goes into it. And it's all configured and organized and stuff. And I kind of like, Boy Scouts was my reference from action packer, but I was like, fuck, dude, I needed to make it just a day sack for this kind of shit. Like, I hike, I'll build out a bag for hiking for what I do, but not like the same shit.
Combat patrolling bag.
Yeah, exactly. So like now I'm like, that's on my to-do list over the next couple months, is build out, like, get it kitted out, correct everything that I need. Everything has a place. And that shit lives there and doesn't fucking leave there unless it needs to be maintained or repaired or replaced. Like,
right. Well, I mean, I'm of the same school of thought. Like, the stuff that's inventoried in my vehicle is a separate running inventory from the things that are inside my house.
Exactly.
Which is right, and none of them are interchangeable.
Right. Oh, and my vehicle, same thing. Like, I have a deck system inside of a truck capped fucking Overland Tacoma, so it's like I got one roars vehicle recovery. The other one is like human necessities for getting stranded with this vehicle, you know?
Right.
And that stuff lives in there, you know, like, and it doesn't leave. And then every once in a while I'll take them out and I'll, you know, lubricate my fucking bolt cutters because it got some moisture in there over time. Anyway, I carry bolt cutters.
Yeah, well, hell yeah.
You might be overlanding somewhere where you can't get out because there's a gate, and you might need to cut the fucking lock gate because it's the only way out, and you're not going to go back miles and miles and miles. But I have the fuel, so you can be an asshole.
I mean, I've definitely carried bolt cutters in an assault pack before, so we're just going to say that. They have their place.
Bolt cutters. I love SF bolt cutters. I don't have any. They're really hard to get, but seeing some of the technology in bolt cutters lately,
I haven't seen.
Dude, carbon fiber, fucking telescoping, fucking. They're like little, and then you could blow them out to like 4 feet, so you got all that
monster leverage, dude.
But then, like, the jaws are the only thing that are actually hardened steel. Everything else is carbon fiber or carbon fiber composite, and you're just like,
wow.
Oh my god!
It's a backpackable set of bolt cutters.
Oh my god!
And fucking strong ones.
Or the ladders that SF dudes have, like seeing the telescoping quick ladders that are all carbon fiber, and they're like, that's a 20-foot ladder that dude just put up in like 4 fucking seconds. It's mind-boggling. And wait, that was in a backpack? Like, where the fuck was that?
Yeah, like back in the day, we had full-size breaching tools. Like, there wasn't no fucking carbon fiber. Like, that's really cool, man. I guess it's kind of a no shit that they would make developments like that in breaching tools.
I think it's preservation of their investments in humans' bodies. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
Probably when you were in, it was, you were talking about how much ammo you carried.
That ladder that you were talking about for us, it was not that light. It was not carbon fiber ladder. I think it was a 20-foot ladder. I think it had to have weighed like 20 pounds, 25 pounds.
Yeah, they're like 6 pounds now. Well, you see it in the weapon systems. The Evolution, like Sig Spear, they went super lightweight. Like weight was a requirement building out that gun. So now everyone's going into weight. It's like, okay, our guys are blowing their knees out and their backs out, and they're just touching 40 years old, and we've put millions and millions and millions of dollars of investments in these people. And you see it too on the PTSD side. There's a lot of chemical experimentations going on to help fix TBI and stuff like that on the government side.
Bro, when I'm like bent over, like sitting in a chair without a back support, and I like stand up, like my back does the whole buffering thing, like where it's like catching up. Yeah, dude. And I'm only 37 years old, only 37. So
and you didn't jump. You weren't airborne, so you weren't jumping either.
My back's already buffering. So,
oh my God. Anyway, it's been a solid 2 hours, man. Marshall, thank you so much for being on episode 29 of the ANR Design Unholstered podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, boss.
Well, we're going to have to do this again because we can just bullshit all day long.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been doing it for a decade. We can keep doing it. So, anyway, dude, have a wonderful night. Thank you for being here. And thank you, everyone, for listening.